This, like for all soldiers, is their life now. Ukraine or death.
Last hope.
So, as a journalist working in war zones, I guess one would say you do quite a few things that a lot of people would call borderline irresponsible. But this today might well be the most irresponsible of them all. Behind me are Ukrainian paratroopers, and we're embedding with them. The mission is to hold the first line of defense outside a small village which has been taken by the Russian army just a couple of days ago.
If I sound nervous, it's because I am. But we felt like it is our job to show what it looks like, raw and unfiltered, when the Russian army is assaulting with all its might. We also wanted to show what it means to stand in their way. In the next 25 minutes, that is exactly what you will see.
The war behind us is extremely loud and intense, and where all the sounds are coming from, that's where we're going. We're quickly swapping the car. Some of the guys just came from there, now we're going in. We're gonna load up, and we're gonna be fast. Yeah, but
The car stops, we run. 300 meters across the field, dodging craters. We enter position 1. We will call it the shelter. The paratroopers hold 2 positions along this road. The other we will call the yard. The shelter is for resting, the yard for surveillance. From there, the Russians are only 600 meters away.
Они выставляли одну эспеху. Напротив нас там дом с подвалом. На 4 человека. Эспеха смотрели каждые 15 минут, там можно прям возле подвала смотреть. И можно там справа дом. Вот там такое, ебать. Надо слушать, короче, чтобы не было дронов. Потому что FPV-ки, сбросы, все въебывают сюда. Блядь, хуево качество. Ну, тут, короче, крайний дом. Вот здесь крайний дом. Тут еще типа какой огород, сад, хуй пойми. Тут такая траншейка небольшая идет. Возле траншейку затянули газой. Здесь поставили ОЗМ-ку. Здесь противопехотки. И здесь еще одна ОЗМ-ка.
Короче, слева дома никуда не ходить. И...
Если идти по этой дороге, только тут трансформатор. Если идти по этой дороге и вообще сюда проходить, чтобы трансформатор постоянно был по правое плечо. Типа проходить сюда.
One group heads to the yard, and we try and get comfortable. This will be our home for the next few days.
After a quick introduction by some units that were already here, we got a couple of hours of much needed sleep. As you just heard, it's pretty loud. The village is under constant attack. A couple of minutes ago we had glide bombs landing somewhere here in the vicinity. Yeah, so it's too dangerous to go even outside just for a couple of minutes. As you can see here, this is the toilet. I guess that says it all.
We share the shelter with Sava, Punk, Morichok, and Albert. Sava, whose real name is Roma, is the commander, a tattoo artist from Kyiv. Punk is, well, a punk. Morichok used to be a sailor, and Albert worked in the IT sector, but his real passion was always the great outdoors. They belong to the Kayfariki. It translates loosely to those who enjoy life. They are, like many others in Ukraine, a group of friends who came together when the war started. What separates them from almost all others is that some were active members of various subcultures, like anti-fascist hooligans. They really are the complete opposite of what Russian propaganda portrays Ukrainian soldiers to be. Rebels, but with a cause. The day progresses, and the shelling intensifies. Outside the cellar, we hear the constant whir of drones. Ours, theirs, who knows?
Since we've been stationed here, we've been holding the line, supporting nearby brigades, doing recon, and bracing ourselves for an enemy attack. I expect it'll come early morning, or when it's dark, or maybe during bad weather. No matter when it happens, we'll give them everything we've got. This position is very close to a village that our enemy recently captured, and now they're leveling this village to the ground. It's quiet in this second. But as you know, the fighting picks up morning and night. Drones are constantly buzzing overhead, ours and theirs, trying to pinpoint positions. The enemy has the upper hand here. More firepower, more artillery, more troops, more of everything. They're pushing hard to break through, and they're making progress. The situation is critical. Moving around during the day is too risky. Too many drones. They spot you immediately. They fly over every house that's still standing, over every basement, trying to locate our infantry. We've learned that the hard way. They soften us up with artillery, so that infantry hunkers down in the basements, doesn't manage to put up any real defenses, and the enemy moves in and just lobs grenades down into the basements. Right now everything is stable, but we're waiting for nightfall and another round of clashes with the enemy.
As night approaches, the boys slowly start getting ready for rotation. Punk gives a quick introduction of the group's hardware.
An assault rifle isn't much use against anything other than infantry. With the PKM, you can at least engage lightly armored vehicles. Maybe even try to penetrate the rear of a BMP. We've got armor-piercing rounds we captured from the Russians for BMPs, BRDMs, but they won't stop a tank. We have one N-lock, but that's it. So if a tank comes rolling in, we'll have only one shot, and then we'd better get the fuck out of there.
When it's dark, we split. Our cameraman moves with the Kayfariki to position 2, the yard. There, the boys conduct small reconnaissance missions, checking the road, watching for enemy movement. It's silent work, but dangerous. You can be sure that on the other side, someone is also watching. I stay behind at the shelter, and I'm joined by Gaba, Django, Ene, and Obama. They are from BSDG, the Black Sea Defense Group, founded by Gaba and 2 others from Odessa. Also they are, like the Kayfariki, a group of friends, mostly martial artists, who gathered when war began. The atmosphere is friendly. We are joined by a cat that has escaped the war above in search of some grub and cuddles. That's how the night begins. At 4 a.m., bombs start to pound the village. The walls shake, debris scatters down the stairs. The carpet begins to flutter like a flag warning us. Trouble is coming. 100 meters away, the same bombs have ripped us from our sleep. But in the cellar, without eyes on the road, Only the radio will tell us what is happening. The other group calls for help.
Плюс. Куда поддержка? Куда?
Нужна поддержка в плане противотанковых. Нужна поддержка в плане противотанковых.
Плюсяра, сова, плюсяра. Я информацию слышал, но мы пока не можем высунуть даже носа, ебать. Хуярят очень сильно.
Шарю. Пацаны, дуже швидко піздую, блядь.
Давай сразу их
Штурмовать? Yeah?
Штурм.
Okay.
Дайте мне РПГшку, АТшку, хоть что-то нахуй.
Sturm, a storm. That's what they call an assault in Ukraine. A Russian armored convoy is heading down the road. The commander, Gaba, prepares an RPG.
Сука. Это что за хуйня, ебать? Я как будто разучился все делать, нахуй.
With heavy machinery, our only chance is to pray they don't know where we are, to wait in the shadows, and when the time is right, to pounce.
Отойдите нахуй!
It's pure chaos. The guys are burning through ammunition, trying to stop the Russians from overrunning them. One soldier always has his gun to the exit, his eyes scanning from left to right. The grenades start to run low, but still, there are smiles.
Last hope.
There is no other way to describe this situation but madness.
Really? You fucked the tank? I love you, brother, man. I love you.
In the middle of the battle, my night vision camera breaks. It records only static and sound. It's ironic because I barely remember any part of this, but it happened, both where we laugh like maniacs
I trust in you.
and where Obama tells me to kill myself if the Russians enter.
Знаешь, что ты можешь сделать?
Скажи.
Если они зайдут сюда,
He stops speaking, he puts his fingers to his mouth and pulls the imaginary trigger. Back at the yard, the Russians are closing in fast. Sava and his group are not as lucky as us. The enemy knows exactly where they are.
Малыш, сова. Малыш. Супер. Малыш. Тихо.
The only way in and out leads through an open yard. Punk blasts his rifle, and with his grenade launcher, Sava, the commander, sends one round after the next, hurling towards the enemy.
У меня легкая в руку, сова, легкая.
Then he's injured.
Все увидим, все будет хорошо, пацаны. Я вас люблю.
Flying shrapnel scrapes open his forearm, but he continues fighting. Three hours into the battle, daylight breaks. It's hard to say what is going on in his mind as he calmly slides past the wall stained with his blood again and again, chucking grenades through the opening and returning to take a sip of water like some people spend the hot summer's day in a park, passing a ping-pong ball to their friend to serve. At the shelter, the fight has calmed down a bit. One of the BSDG always watches the entrance, ready to fire at any moment. They switch every couple of minutes. The rest reload, rest and reflect. Django has lost his hearing, but apart from that, everyone is okay. The adrenaline wears off a bit, and we can start to think straight.
Три танка, две бэхи, два БТР. Наш, ну, это был сегодня утром.
But the calm is deceptive. All of a sudden, we hear the gentle hiss of a gas grenade, and smoke starts to fill the room. I film the beginning on my phone before I can get my camera to work. Is it poison gas? Tear gas? Are they trying to smoke us out? Will they come in? The boys don't take any chances and start shooting. We are lucky. It's not poison, and the Russians don't enter. But we are surrounded, and we realize we will not be leaving this cellar anytime soon. At the yard, the fight is in full swing. The Russians have closed off the roads and taken up position in a house directly opposite. Because backup can't reach us, the guys try to coordinate Ukrainian mortar crews and drone units via the radio.
Там пидоры просят поддержку. Они просто за забором от меня, блядь.
Finally, a friendly drone drops an explosive over the enemy position. You can hear an injured Russian moaning in pain. But for Sava, the commander, it is not enough. He does not want to take any chances and leaves cover to fire an RPG. At the shelter, tensions are high. We hear voices. The Russians are just outside. One seems to be injured. We hear them chanting in unison, trying to heave their comrade over the ground. They call for backup. More arrive. Their voices get louder and louder.
Малыш, ебаните в нас. Малыш, ебаните в нас. У нас есть дохуя пидоров. Перекличку, сука, делают. Ебаните в нас, кто слышит.
Gaba sends a final call for help over the radio. There is a cellar, we hear one of the Russians say. They're coming. It is the moment when my life should be flashing before my eyes, but it doesn't. I only see Obama, his lips twisting around his teeth as he and Django stand with the guns in their hand. But once again, we are lucky. Our call for help was heard. Kayfariki and BSDG fighters assist with drones, mortars, and RPG strikes from behind the fields around. From above, you can see the full scale of the inferno. Inside, explosions very close to us tell us Ukrainian troops are firing at the Russians. Gaba decides that attack is the best defense. He throws grenades and then shoots an RPG at the house opposite us, where we suspect them to be. Back at the yard, the situation worsens. It's been over 12 hours of battle. Punk is wounded. A piece of shrapnel has lodged itself deep into his leg. The boys move him from the yard to the entrance. Albert provides cover while Sava applies first aid. Punk is struggling not to go into shock, his eyes rolling into the back of his head. They move him onto the staircase, where he fights the pain. The rest continue fighting the Russians, who are making another push. They realize that they cannot stay here much longer. Ammunition and energy are running out. The road is still blocked. To escape, the group will have to run around, behind enemy lines.
Перед металом теж є траншеї. Вони вроді би чисті. Підерів там не бачу, як прийняв.
Плюс. А кто-то может артой подсобить, закрыть типа пидоров, чтобы в этот момент проскочили?
Пробуем щось.
Давай, на связи.
Just 50 meters behind the yard, the drone pilot has spotted an empty trench. It's their best chance. The only problem, the Russians have a BTR positioned at the crossroads. Clumsily, they have driven it into a ditch, but the crew is still inside. At the shelter, there is good and bad news. The good news, the voices of the Russians have died down. Are they dead, injured, only hiding? We don't know. The bad news, the house we are under and all the houses around us are on fire. The cellar starts to fill with smoke. We all get a headache, the first sign of carbon monoxide poisoning. As the sun slowly sets, we decide we have to make a run for it. The other paratroopers have set up a first line of defense at the edge of a field that ends right behind our shelter. My camera at this point has no more battery. The only footage we have is from Obama's body cam. We leave the shelter after 14 hours of hell and run. Miraculously, we all make it. Sava and the others fight their way out through enemy-controlled territory. All four, plus our cameraman, are injured. Their exit was made possible by two comrades, Vegan and Woody, who killed the crew of the Russian BTR blocking the exit. Having survived only due to the bravery and resilience of the commanders Sava, Gaba and their boys, we head home with a near-death experience that hopefully won't repeat itself so soon. For the Kayfariki and the BSDG, it's back to war the next day. This, like for all soldiers, is their life now. Ukraine or death. Even if it was tough to watch, we hope our report gave you a valuable insight into how war in Ukraine actually looks like. But another thing, war is expensive, and units like the Kayfariki rely heavily on donations for many things: medical supplies, electronics, cars. So if you have the capacity and the will to help them out, I'm sure they would be very grateful if you do so. And you can do it here, either via PayPal or the link to this Ukrainian bank account.